Dear members of Kansai Gaidai University, my name is David Guzman, and today I'm going to show you a demo lesson. However, I would like to make two clarifications. The first one is that I am going to approach the lesson as if I were in the classroom. The second one is that sometimes I'm going to stop and instead of approaching the lesson, I would explain how the exercise was designed in order to make clear what the intention of the exercise is and what outcome I expect. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson and let's get right into it. So, this lesson is called Powerful Arguments and it's divided into 7 parts, which are this ones you see. Now, we're going to start with the warm up, and it has a statement that conversations are undervalued. So, why do I say that? In my 12 years of experience in different professional areas, I have seen a drastic change in how conversations are being taken care of. Before, conversations used to be a little bit less passionately, but they were way deeper. Today, on the other hand, we have seen how, like, conversations are not looking for the best argument, but they are looking for the person with the most controversial opinion or the person who speaks more passionately about something without being 100% correct, or the person who is creating the most innovative personal attack, and that person is usually seen as the quote winner of the conversation. But that is not what conversations are meant to be, and there is a reason why we are seeing that. Unfortunately, in education, we have lost track on how to pay attention to the other's perception, yeah, and how to build arguments, not to support our opinion only, but also how to build arguments in order to understand the other person's opinion or perception. And this is why this lesson is going to have 3 key objectives. First one is going to identify the structure of the argument. If we are able to identify the structure of an argument, we will be able to understand the other person's argument better. Then we're going to recognize the difference between good arguments and powerful arguments. As I said, social media is full of people that talk about anything. And most of the times, these people have very beautiful speech, but we are not able to recognize the difference between a beautiful speech and a powerful, well supported argument. And this is why we are going to talk about today. And third, we're going to use different techniques to make arguments more powerful. So let's get right into it. What makes a good argument? A good argument has 4 parts, at least, because there could be more, but we're going to talk about 4 parts today. The first one is the claim. The claim is basically what you think or what you believe or your point of view on something. Then we have the ground evidence, which is the data, facts, or proof that support your claim. Most of the people you see on social media stay there. They stop there, but this is halfway of a good argument. So, the next part, and the most important part that most of the people forget about, is the warrant. The warrant is that logical connection that connects the ground and the claim, and that has to relate to most of the people. Yeah, you have to find that connection that applies to everyone, and that's what makes a good argument because it cannot be invented, it cannot be a lie, it has to be true, and that's why the warrant is the most important part. Now, the backing, the backing could be 2 things. First, it could be additional support in case the argument needs it, or it could be a restatement of your claim in case you provide a very long argument with an extensive evidence and a super long warrant. So you want the audience to remember what your main point is at the end. All right? So let's take a look at a simple example. Stop. In this part of the lesson, I'm going to provide a simple example about cats and dogs. I'm going to divide my argument into the 4 parts that I mentioned, and then we're going to see how these parts work together in order to create a persuasive argument, in this case, in favor of cats. So, when we review this exercise with the students, we see how the 4 parts of the argument work. And after that, we're going to have the same exercise for the student to do. So they have to build an argument to answer the following question, which is the best pet. But in order to make it a little bit more dynamic, we are going to include other pets that are not just cats and dogs. We can include otters, pigs, or raccoons. Once they are done with that, I'm going to check their arguments. We're going to discuss some of them, and then we're going to see if those arguments have all the four parts that we just talked about. After that, we're going to get ready for the reading. The reading starts with a vocabulary check. In here, I make sure that the students know all the keywords that we're going to use in the reading. And then we proceed to the reading, which is here. This reading is designed for the students to check a simulated debate speech in which a person is on one side of the debate and it's providing two arguments. Then students to provide answers to these questions. And after that, we're going to discuss how the arguments were presented in the debate. The idea of this exercise is that they identify the four parts of the argument in a simulated debate speech, and then they have to tell me which argument is better. Now, the key of this exercise is that students should say that argument number one is better. And now, we talk about why argument number one is better, and we focus on the ground evidence, and we also focus on the warrant. Then, the argument number two has some flaws in the ground evidence and also in the warrant. But the most important lesson here is that this argument was AI generated entirely. So I want the students to know that AI can generate arguments that look good, but they are not powerful. And this is what I want them to know. So now I'm going back to the teacher's character. Okay, now you have seen how the two arguments are constructed, but even though they have all the four parts of an argument, that doesn't really make them powerful enough. Yeah, so you have to create arguments yourselves. AI cannot create them. Okay, and to create arguments that are powerful and that are meaningful, we can use a technique that is called argument inversion. Let's take a look at this sentence. We have never seen something like that. If we see this sentence, it is clear that there is something that we see for the first time. But if we use argument inversion, the sentence is going to be a little bit more impactful. I would say way more impactful. Never have we seen something like that. It is not just the way I say the sentence, it is the way I use this word. This word is called a trigger. And if I use the trigger first, as it, it is meant to be used, the sentence is going to have a way bigger impact. Never have we seen something like that. So let's take a look at some examples of triggers. Never, rarely, only then, at no time, not only, and my personal favorite, under no circumstances. Stop. In this part, we're going to see some examples, and then we are going to identify argument inversion used on the reading. After students identify the use, we are going to see how these examples relate to the motion of the debate. And we're going to have a group activity in which we're going to use physical movement and dynamics so we can have the class way more engaged in our exercise. So they will divide in threes. They will have a runner. They will take this card, and then they will have a person who writes the sentence, and then a speaker who will say the sentence dramatically. It will give personality to the sentence. That exercise will take around 5-10 minutes, and then we're going to prepare for the debate. In the debate preparation, we're going to separate the group into groups, one for the proposition and one for the opposition. And then we are going to prepare arguments following this criteria. With that being said, we are going to get ready for next class debate. And that is the end of my lesson. Thank you so very much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.